On Friday night, a heavy silence fell over Jerusalem. The crowds had vanished into their homes. The disciples were scattered and hiding behind locked doors, fully expecting to be the next targets of the Roman authorities. But the religious leaders who had secured the execution remained uneasy. They remembered Jesus' specific claim about rising after 3 days, and they viewed his tomb as a potential flashpoint for a new uprising. They petitioned the Roman governor, Pilate, for a level of security typically reserved for high-value prisoners. Pilate authorized an official Roman seal for the stone and deployed an elite military guard detail to stand watch. This created a unique historical irony. A detachment of Rome's finest soldiers was stationed at a cemetery, specifically tasked with keeping a dead man from leaving his grave. Sunday morning began with a series of anomalies. An earthquake shook the area. The guards were found incapacitated, and the heavy stone had been physically pushed out of its track. Peter and John ran to the site to investigate. Inside the dark tomb, they found the linen burial cloths still lying there. A grave robber, working in a frantic rush, would have taken the body and its wrappings together. Instead, the linens were left behind, and the cloth that had covered his head was folded and placed separately. The arrangement of the room suggested a calm, methodical departure from within, rather than a struggle to remove a body from the outside. Outside that tomb, Mary Magdalene stood weeping. The missing body left her confused and convinced that the grave had been desecrated. In first-century society, a woman's testimony carried very little weight in public life, yet the first person chosen to carry the news of this event was a marginalized, grieving woman. She saw a man she assumed was the gardener, until he simply spoke her name. That single word changed her state from deep mourning to ecstatic recognition. The first undeniable proof of life was presented to a broken outcast, rather than the political or religious elite. Later that Sunday, 2 disciples were walking away from the city toward a village called Emmaus. They were disillusioned, explaining to a stranger that their expectations for a new kingdom had been crushed. The stranger began to walk them through the ancient scriptures, reframing their tragedy by showing them how the prophets had predicted this exact sequence of events. During their evening meal, the stranger took the bread and broke it. In that moment, they recognized him, and he disappeared. Their despair vanished. They immediately got up and ran the 7 miles back to Jerusalem in the dark to find the others. They found the disciples gathered in fear behind locked doors. As they began to share their story, Jesus suddenly appeared in the center of the room. He calmed their fear of seeing a spirit by showing them his physical wounds and eating a piece of fish in their presence. This collective encounter shattered their terror and convinced them that their teacher was once again a physical reality. One disciple, Thomas, had been absent on Sunday and remained a holdout. He was a pragmatist who refused to believe hearsay, demanding the chance to physically see and touch the wounds for himself. 8 days later, while the group was together again, Jesus appeared a second time. He went directly to Thomas, offering his hands and his side for inspection, addressing the specific doubts Thomas had voiced in private. Thomas moved from rigid skepticism to absolute conviction, declaring, "My Lord and my God." By including this moment, the narrative acknowledges that honest doubt requires tangible evidence, showing how that doubt can be resolved through direct presence. This chart tracks the group's trajectory. A scattered group of people hiding in a room became the catalysts for a movement that spread across the world and endured for 2 millennia. This history carries 3 core messages: that death is a door rather than a wall, that past failures can be fully forgiven, and that the power of renewal is actively available. Jesus' final message to Thomas was intended for all future generations. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. The empty tomb remains a living invitation to experience that same transformative power today.